Hello, and this is Michael Siegenthaler with another tutorial of Skits. We've gotten a lot of responses in the first two videos, and the one that keeps coming up is people want to know more about Photoshop and how I actually use Photoshop. So that's what we're going to focus on here. I do a Photoshop painting the same way I would if I was doing a traditional painting. I start out with drawing and sketching, and then I work in some washes, and then to paint, and then eventually I get to where I'm just detailing and doing final details to make it really pop at the end. I'm going to break up the painting into 3 stages. You have the drawing and photo bashing stage, you have the painting stage, and third, you have the detailing and final photo bashing. Now in the first stage, in the drawing stage, I like to just use a basic round brush with a feathered edge. It's a very simple brush in Photoshop. It's standard round, and that's all I use. Second stage, I'll change it up a little bit, but I'll still just use the basic round, and then I'll use a square chalk brush. And that's pretty much all the brushes I'll ever use from Photoshop in the first 2 stages, in the drawing and the painting stage. Now in the third stage, once I get to it, I'll actually use some detail brushes, like things that I don't want to paint individually, like a whole tree full of leaves. I don't want to paint every individual leaf, so what I'll do is I'll use brushes that are in the shape of leaves, and I'll put that in. Or I'll use a brush that has some fog, that looks like fog, and I'll use that. But we'll talk more about that when I get to it. In stage 1, the drawing stage, I like to focus on getting my drawing down. Now what does that entail? I want to make sure that the piece has a really good composition. In order to make it have a good composition, there's a few things you should actually look at. For instance, if you look on my piece here, I've broken the whole piece into thirds. Now the reason why I do that is because I like usually all of my pieces to work by the rule of thirds. And the rule of thirds is if you place a very important part of the picture, or the most important part of the picture, in those points of contact where it's in a third of the screen, if you actually look on the piece, you'll see Skits' head is right at one of those intersecting lines that I've put in. And that is a place that I want you to look. So composition, once you get the composition in place and you got a good drawing, then I like to start going and throwing just a splash of color. I'll go in and I'll do some washes. I'll try and look at the piece as in 3 layers. You got your foreground, your middle ground, and your background. Usually that's pretty much all I work in. I work in just those 3 different areas right there. As long as you have a strong foreground, strong middle ground, and a strong background, everything should take care of itself from there. I never really go more in depth than just that. Then I like to move on to photo bashing. Once I get a little bit of color and I know where my foreground, middle ground, and background are. Photo bashing is just for grabbing. I like to just grab some photos that have color and feel of what I'd like the finished piece to be. It's not really necessarily I want it to have just that one little piece and I'm going to work everything around that piece. Although with this one I actually did get that bridge and put it in there, but I made it a part of the composition from the very beginning. But photo bashing, I just want to rotate, splash down some stuff just to get some color and an idea of where everything's going to be. Also like to deal with light at this point. You want to make sure that you got your lighting, your composition, and your perspective, and your drawing all done before you actually move on to the painting stage. Stage 2. In stage 2, all you're doing is you're rolling around and you're detailing out your entire painting. You're going in, you're finding spaces, and you should work on the whole piece at once. Now, how many layers should you have right here? Myself, I only do 1 layer. It's best to work in 1 layer until you start getting to the end of the painting stage. Get everything in there, get it pretty much how you want it, and then once you get the painting pretty much where you want it, then you start breaking it up into layers. I'll only break it up into 3 layers at the most. I'll have my foreground, middle ground, and background. That's it. That's all the layers I'll ever have. And I don't even do that until the end of a painting, when I actually get to the real detail-y parts. Stage 3. Again, this is where I'll break it down into 3 different levels so I can work on them individually. Your foreground, middle ground, and background. Foreground tends to be a lot darker than the background. That's just the way it is in Mother Nature. If you go outside and you look, things recede as they go away. We've known that since the Renaissance period. That's one of the big discoveries that they made in the Renaissance period, is atmospheric perspective. So I like to use a few detail brushes in the final stage of doing a painting. In this one we used leaves. We used some textured brushes for the bark of the tree. But I also used a little bit of photo bashing as well to get that bark on the tree. I just went outside and took a picture of a tree outside and just plopped it right in. Again, if you're doing this professionally so that you can sell a product, you need to use your own photographs. Don't go online and take other people's photographs. You just shouldn't do it. What you need to do is use your own photography to get this part of the painting done. So let's recap exactly everything that I use in Photoshop. I never use more than 3 layers. I only use 1 layer when I'm starting the painting all the way up until I get to the final detail painting process. Brush-wise, I only use a standard round with a feathered edge. I use a square chalk brush, and then some detail-y brushes at the end for fog, leaves, that sort of stuff. Or maybe some texture. If I have a bunch of vines going everywhere, I'll use a brush for that. But besides that, that's it. You should be able to do a painting with just a basic round brush. You shouldn't be trying to put all this other fancy brushes and everything in it. Just use your basic round brush and you should be able to do an entire painting just with that. A little more about color and lighting. When you're first starting out, you should really learn from life. It has everything that you need, and it's right at your eyeballs, literally. All you gotta do is just go outside and look at nature and be able to learn about light and color. If you're gonna be doing photo bashing, go ahead and photograph an area that you think looks interesting or you might want to draw or paint in the computer. Go ahead and take pictures of that area at different times of the day and see how the light affects basic colors. You know, you always think of when you do a tree, it's got green leaves. Well, depending upon what day it is or what time of the day it is, it may have different color leaves. In the morning, it might have some oranges and some violets and some purples, and same in the evening. It could switch completely. It's best to just go outside, take a look at things, and it's really about observation. Just observe how nature is, and once you get all the basics down and you understand how light and color work, then you can actually go back and manipulate that and create really interesting things. But you really need a good, strong foundation. So just look at things in real life, and that'll help you out best. At the very end, I decided to take the arrows in Skits, since they were in motion, and actually put a little bit of a blur on them. I felt that to be best right at the end, so that it looks like they're actually moving and you got that action, and it just really adds a little extra pop there at the end that I felt like it needed. Let me know what you think. Skits is launching in the spring of 2020. Get on the mailing list today. Get your comic book tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe down below, hit that notification bell, and share our videos. Also check out Come Get Some, a new show hosted by Black Star. She's the host of the universe. Doo-doo.